Uh, Hi folks. So today we'll be talking about evolution of development priorities in key value stores serving large scale applications, mainly from RocksDB's perspective. This is presented as distributed reading group presentation. Yeah. So let's start with RocksDB introduction. So what is RocksDB? It's a high performance key value store. It was written in 2012 by Facebook, mainly based on Google's LevelDB. It's optimized for SSDs and it targets large scale distributed applications. It's embedded in the high level application as a library. Each instance manages data which is stored on storage devices on just a single server. There is no interhost operations like replication, load balancing, and no high level operations like checkpointing. So that implementation is left to the applications, but the support is provided. So customizability. There are a lot of components of RocksDB which can be customized, like val treatment. Val is basically write-ahead log, compaction strategy, high level read or write throughput, space efficiency. So why is this? Because there are lots of consumers of RocksDB. Facebook says that there are 30 different applications at Facebook which are using RocksDB, and hundreds of petabytes of production data is being stored. So let's go through the use cases of them. So RocksDB is used as storage engines for various databases. It's used as stream processing. It's used as logging or queuing for queuing services, indexing services, caching on SSDs, and in brackets, these are the examples, the softwares that use it. So why so many consumers? So the problem is application needs to protect against a lot of things like media corruption using checksums, guaranteed data consistency after crashes, issue write system call in correct order to guarantee durability of writes, handling errors from file systems in a correct manner. So all this takes a lot of efforts. So a lot of applications require the same common principles, and RocksDB is one of them. By giving a key value interface, eventually also achieves these things. Let's go through some workload characteristics. So over here we see that all types of different types of use cases or applications that were mentioned earlier, like databases, stream processing, logging, queuing, indexing services, caches, have different read write requirements. Like database has a mixed read write requirement, while stream processing and logging queues are write heavy, and cache is also write heavy, while index is read heavy. And they require different read types. Some require get, only get, and some requires iterators. And they have these other special characteristics as well. So the aim of this diagram was to show the breadth of the application area where RocksDB is being used. So let's start with talking about RocksDB architecture in brief. So the internal data, primary data structure, which is used to store data in RocksDB is LSM tree. LSM stands for log structure merge tree. How are writes progressing? So when data is written, it is written to in-memory data buffers that is known as memtable, and also an on-disk val. Memtable is basically a skip list to keep data in order. Val is used for recovery after failure, which is optional based on the application's requirement. Size of memtable, when it reaches a configured size, memtable and val become immutable. New memtable and val are allocated for new upcoming subsequent writes. Content of memtable are flushed to sorted string table that is known as SS table, which is a data file on disk. Flushed memtables and associated val are then later on discarded. So SS table stores data in sorted order, which is divided into uniformly sized blocks. SS table also has an index block with one index per entry of SS table block, which is used for binary search. when we are doing a read. So let's talk about another process that is very integral part of this, that is known as compaction. So what happens? So LSM trees has multiple levels of SS tables. Newest SS tables are created by mem table flushes and are placed in level 0. Higher levels that are greater than level 0 are created by a process called as compaction. So what happens? So size of SS table on a given level is limited or fixed by a configuration parameter. What happens is when the size of level L is reached, some SS tables at level L are selected and are merged with the next subsequent levels, SS tables which are overlapping. And basically what happens is data is deleted, deleted data is removed, and also overwritten data is also removed. By this process, what happens is that read performance will be improved and optimized, and also the space efficiency is also optimized. So basically with this process, all the data would be migrated from level 0 to the last level. The compaction IO, they claim, is that is efficient because it only involves bulk reads and writes of entire files, and it can also be parallelized. So let's talk about reads. A key lookup happens at each successive level until the key is found. If it is not found, we go on to the next level till we reach the last level, where if it is not found, we return that key is not present. Beginning of the search happens from searching all the mem tables, followed by level 0 SS tables, and then subsequent SS tables in higher levels. At each of this level, binary search is used. Also, Bloom filters are used to skip whether we want to search in the SS table or not. But the point is that scans require, those are for point lookups. For scan, it requires all levels to be searched. So let's talk more about compaction, because that's a very important and continuously worked item in this thing. So there are multiple types of compaction. One is leveled compaction. Leveled compaction, what happens is at each level, there is exponentially increase of size targets. Tiered compaction, we have multiple sorted runs which are lazily compacted together. Either when there are too many sorted runs, or ratio between total DB size over the size of the largest sorted run exceeds some threshold. There is also another compaction that is known as FIFO compaction. This discards old files when DB hits a size limit and only performs lightweight compactions, basically targeted for in-memory caching kind of applications. Now the property of this compaction types is lazier compaction improves write amplification and write throughput, but read performance suffers because you'll have to scan a lot of things, a lot of SS tables. But more aggressive compaction would sacrifice on the write performance, because now compaction is also doing IO, but will allow for faster reads. So this is the fundamental diagram. At level 0, it's mem table that's in memory. All these blocks are SS tables, and we see that it's a leveled compaction. So each level, the next level is a bigger size exponentially compared to the previous levels. So some other characteristics like, write amplification. For a leveled compaction, we see that write amplification is in the orders of 10s to 20s. For tiered, it's of order to 4 to 10, they say. And for FIFO, it's less. Space overhead for leveled is less, but for tiered is somewhere around 94%. So these were the metric that they used, like 20 bits per Bloom filter, 20 Bloom filter bits per key. Write amplification they consider is as total SS table file writes divided by number of mem table bytes which were flushed, and 12 sorted runs were there for tiered compaction. So then they go on and talk about how the evolution of resource optimization happens. So they say that earlier they focused a lot on write amplification. So initial focus, because write amplification, if they focus on, then they will eventually save on flash erase cycles. which is very important if your workload is very write heavy, happens at two levels. So write amplification is happening at two levels. One is that SSDs themselves introduce write amplification between some ratio of 1.1 to 3, and some database softwares or storage softwares actually introduce a lot of write amplification, as in like to the ratio of 100. They say that if they have fixed block sizes of 4K and if only 100 bytes are changed, then it causes a lot of write amplification. So because of that, the number is high. So leveled compaction, they say that the number, as we have seen in the previous slide, is somewhere around 10 to 30. They claim that it's better than B-tree that's used in InnoDB, but it's still heavy for write heavy workloads. Tiered compaction write amplification is 4 to 10. It's better than leveled, but it's still high. So yeah, then space amplification. So then later on, they, from the field experience, they got to know that write amplification is not that much of a problem, but space amplification is a bigger problem. So after several years, space utilization was far more important than write amplification. Neither flash write cycles nor write overhead were constraining, and number of IOPS utilized in practice was low compared to the SSD that could support. So improved leveled compaction. So what did they do? They improved the level compaction by reducing the amount of dead data in LSM trees. They came up with a dynamic leveled compaction where the size of each level will not be exponentially fixed, but it will be adjusted automatically based on the actual size of the previous level. So what were the results? So they claim that if we compare dynamic leveled compaction with level DB style older type of compaction, the space, yeah, so there is a reduction. So 12% is somewhere they get, while otherwise it is 25%, and the paper says that sometimes it's more than that as well. So yeah, so then they talk about CPU utilization. So what they say is that generally in the industry today, the concern is that with SSDs, bottleneck has shifted from storage device to the CPU. But they don't think so based on their field experience. They say that few applications are limited by IOPS, but most are still limited by the space. And their claim is that any server with a high-end CPU has more enough compute to saturate one high-end SSD. RocksDB never had an issue making full use of SSD performance. So, but they still go on and say that, CPU bottleneck can happen if our hardware architecture is such that for a single CPU, we have many SSDs. Also, we have a lot of write dominated workload, which may also cause compaction, a lot of CPU utilization. And what they say is that the mitigation is that use a lightweight compression strategy. And their claim is that for workloads, other cases, it may happen that if they exceed their typical flash endurance budget, and SSD would last around 2 to 5 years. So yeah, so the next thing was adapting to newer technologies. So this mainly talks about new kinds of devices that are coming up, like open channel multi-stream SSDs, zoned namespaces, which promise to improve a lot on the query latency, and save on the flash erase cycles. But as they have said earlier also, from their field experience, flash erase cycles is not issue, but space is a bigger issue. So, but they still go on and say that one path of exploration would be delegating accommodation of these technologies to underlying file system, and RocksDB providing additional hints for that. They also say that so the other new thing that is coming up is in storage compute. So they say that it's a challenge to adapt because it would likely require a lot of API changes in the entire software stack to fully exploit. So they are still exploring about these things. Their main focus right now is disaggregated storage, which appears a lot of interesting optimization for them and is their current priority. What with this disaggregated storage happens is now CPU and SSDs can be fully utilized at the same time because they can be separately provisioned and they are not aggregated, they are disaggregated. So continuing further, they say that the challenge that they are facing right now is long IO latency is happening and they're trying to consolidate it by issuing parallel IOs. So another thing that has happened is that they have realized that a lot of failures can be transient failures. So they need to handle those quality since now the storage and the computer is disaggregated. Quality of service also comes into picture and they are focusing on that. They are also working on profiling information. And they say that more work is needed. So the next new technology is SCM, which is also common brand name is like Optane devices from Intel. So what they say is that it can be used as an extension of DRAM, but then the question becomes how to implement key data structures like block cache and memtable, which are in memory on these new persistent devices. So the other way is to use it as main storage for database. But they go on and say that the bottleneck is not IO, but rather it's space or CPU. And they also, another usage would be, it can be used for write-ahead logs. But they say that the write-ahead log is a small staging area. Will it justify the cost of getting just this SCM just for vals? So moving on to what lessons they have learned from serving large-scale systems. So the main discussion was around resource management. And they say that generally large-scale distributed services tend to partition data into shards. And these are distributed over multiple server nodes. Size of shard is limited. Since shard is a unit of load balancing and replication, shards are also copied between nodes atomically for this purpose. Each server node will typically host hundreds of shards, and one RocksDB instance is used for each shard. So storage host will have many RocksDB instances running on it. And then there comes a problem of managing global resources of that node. So continuing further on this is that you can run all instances in a single address space, or you can have address space for each instances. Both have its own advantages and disadvantages. They say that nodes resources needs to be managed both globally per host and locally per instance to ensure fairly and fair utilization and efficiency as well. So how they do it, they have a concept of resource controllers, and for each type of resource, and this is per instance. So applications can create these controllers and use it. They have a concept of prioritization among instances because some instances can be, important for some resources. For some instances, priority would be more based on what they are doing. So that prioritization needs to be there. They also claim that unconditionally keep on creating threads is not a good idea because it has a lot of problems like consuming more CPU, context switching problems, debugging problems. So thread creation needs a proper management via thread pool kind of mechanism. And this pool should be constrained with the type of resources allocation that is done per pool basis. Yeah. So since RocksDB instances, if it is running it in separate process, globally, globally managing per resource host becomes a challenge, because then there is a need of coordination that is required. So let's talk about val treatment. So traditionally what happens is that databases force a val write upon every write operation for durability. Large scale storage systems typically replicate and have their own consistency guarantees. So for such systems, RocksDB val writes are less critical. And further on this, that there are systems that have their own replicated log, they don't even need RocksDB val. So the point is that there are lots of applications, and based on the applications, tuning of this val sync behavior is needed. So they have three modes. One is sync val writes, other is buffered one, and other one is, the next one is no val writes. So other things they talked about in the paper was rate limited file deletes, because this file deletion can cause a lot of IO spikes, and hence it has to be rate limited. So the foreground IO is not affected. Then they talked about data format compatibility. This is more related with software upgrades, and upgrades have to be non-disruptive kind of thing. So that they talked about. They also talked about configurations, and they also say that generally applications uh, consumers tend to complain that RocksDB has a lot of tunables, so they are more focusing on auto tuning as well. Being a database, replication and backup support is one of the critical uh, feature set that they need to support. So other thing they talked about was their lessons they learned from failure handling. So frequency of silent data corruptions. So storage media corruptions are detected by block checksums. What they say is every 3 months for 100 petabytes of data, they see corruptions are introduced at RocksDB level. And interestingly, 40% of those cases, corruption has already propagated to other replicas. So they talked about a multi-layer protection, which focuses on primarily, detect corruption as soon as possible to minimize downtime as well as data loss. They have block checksums, file checksums, and handoff checksums. They also talked about end-to-end protection, wherein they talked about a checksum per key value to detect corruptions that are happening before the file IO layer. So all about these type of checksums were to detect the corruption happening at the file IO layer. And they also talked about severity based error handling, basically, retry resume kind of behavior on transient errors, and not doing nothing or just returning those errors to the applications. So this was a diagram that was taken from the paper itself. What happens is that when a client issues a write, they pass a KV pair along with the checksum. It goes to the mem table in memory, which has also the KV checksum, and then this mem table is flushed to the SS table on disk, which has a block checksum, and this is the FS handoff checksum while handing off to the SS table. So this is the general flow, and similarly vice versa is for the reads. Interesting part is that they use file checksum only for replicating and backup restore kind of thing, because they say is that file checksums tend to generally show or catch corruptions when bytes are or files are transferred over the network. Yeah. So lessons on the key value interface. So KV interface is quite generic. Keys and values both are variable length byte arrays. They are easy to migrate from one KV system to another because of a very simple and a generic API structure. They proposed an extension which would actually add a timestamp notion, and with that, they can avail versions and give multi-version concurrency control, and also point in time reads, basically snapshots. So these were the references. That's the paper, and yeah, questions, everything. Thank you.